Hello, everyone. We are back again with our English lessons as a continuation, still based on parts of speech. I am Abdoulaye Jawara, and I'm here to present to you an English language lesson on grammar. But before we go further, we have a homework that we need to go over from the last lesson. We were supposed to answer these questions by filling the blank spaces with suitable verbs. The first question was, the gatekeeper dash the door. So we have the gatekeeper closed the door, but you could have a different answer. You could have the gatekeeper opened the door. You could have the gatekeeper shut the door. You could have answers different from what we have on the screen. The thief dash over the fence. We have the thief jumped over the fence. The aeroplane dash from London to Banjul. The aeroplane flew from London to Banjul. That was the homework from last lesson. Our today's lesson, before we go into it, we quickly have a review of the last lesson. In the last lesson, on the tenses of verbs, we learned that the tense of a verb shows the time of an action. Whenever we speak, we must use verbs. And when we use these verbs, the form of the verb that we use shows us the time the action of the verb took place. Now, we learned that verbs are words that express action or a state of being, but mostly we use verbs that express action. If the verb expresses action, then that action must happen at a particular time. Now, it shows whether the action takes place in the present or that it takes place in the past or in the future. We did those three tenses in our last lesson: present, past, and future. Now, does it mean those are the only times actions happen? The answer is no. The action can also happen in a different way. Sometimes it can start and still goes on, unfinished. Okay? For example, looking at these sentences here, we have the teacher is writing on the board. The verbs here are is writing. The teacher is writing. I am drinking some water. You are learning tenses of verbs. Tafa is reading a book. The calf is eating grass. We are dancing to the music. They are fighting. Now, looking at these sentences, we find out that the action is still going on. The drinking is going on. The learning is going on. The reading, the eating the dancing, the fighting, all these actions are going on. So when an action starts and is still going on, we call it the present continuous tense. The present continuous tense is used to express an action that is still going on. The present tense is used for action that is going, that happens in the present, like every day, or it's a usual thing. Every evening, every time, sometimes. But it is not past, it is not happening at that moment, but it is something that repeatedly happens. That's called present tense. The verb takes a different form in that sense. We learned that the verb, the action can happen in the past, yesterday, okay, some time ago, 2 weeks ago, last week, last year, and so on and so forth. That is in the past. In the future means something that is yet to come, tomorrow, later on in the day, next week, next year, and so on and so forth. With the present continuous tense, the action is going on, is still happening. Okay? The present continuous tense is formed with the verb in two parts, as we learned before. We learned in our last lesson that the verb can also be in two parts. Remember, we have the participle, the present participle of the verb, and you also have the present tense of the verb to be. That is the is, are, am, and so on and so forth. Those things in combination will form a continuous tense. Okay? So that's why you have the verb in two parts. Like, for example, if you look at this sentence here, I am drinking some water. Am is a verb, drinking is a verb. So you have two verbs here that combine to give you a tense. Okay? The present form of the verb to be and the present participle of drink in combination gives us the present continuous tense. That is how to form the present continuous tense. The present tense of the verb to be is am, are, plus the verb, part of the verb with the ing. That's called the present participle. Okay? It is formed using the present tense of the verb to be, am, is, are, as the first part, and the second part, the form of the verb that ends in ing. Okay? However, this rule does not apply to verbs like can, shall, may, must, and ought. These verbs do not have any ing form. They don't have any present participle. Okay? They remain like this. Sometimes some of them can turn to past. For example, can turn to could. Okay? Shall can turn to should. May can turn to might, and so on and so forth. But they don't have the same characteristics or the same manners, the same behavior like the verb to be or the present participle form of other verbs. It is important to note the following points here. How do we form the present participle or the present continuous tense of a verb? Few rules we need to observe here. Rule 1. Verbs that end in E, we drop the E and add ing. Verbs like write, W-R-I-T-E, ends with E, a silent E. We call them silent E. We drop this E when we want to form the present participle. It's a very common mistake among students and sometimes even elders. A very common spelling mistake when we want to write the present participle of a verb. Some would say, for example, write, because it ends with E, they would write, because the present participle is formed by adding ing, full stop. That's the rule they follow. It's just a matter of adding ing. Okay? That's wrong. So when a verb ends in a silent E, drop the E and add ing. So the correct spelling of writing would be dropping the E and adding ing. The same thing goes for dance. D-A-N-C-E becomes D-A-N-C-I-N-G. Shine, the sun shines. The sun shines. Ends with a silent E. We drop that E and add ing, it becomes S-H-I-N-I-N-G. Like becomes L-I-K-I-N-G, liking, by dropping the E. Hide becomes hiding, H-I-D-I-N-G. The same thing goes for a lot more of these kind of words. File, filing, smile, smiling, and so on and so forth. You can name it. Another rule, some verbs double the last letter. Some verbs double the last letter. Some, not all of them. Example, stop becomes stopping. Add becomes adding. Sit becomes sitting. Spit becomes spitting. Clap becomes clapping. Dig becomes digging. So words like this that end with such consonants, most of the times, double the last letter and then adding ing to form their present participles. Another rule number 3, verbs ending in IE. We change this to I. Example, die becomes dying. We drop the E, the I and the E. We replace it with Y. Tie, you use a rope to tie something. Okay? The present participle becomes tying. Lie, likewise, becomes lying. Okay? And like I have been saying, this form of the verb that ends in the ing is what is referred to as the present participle, the continuous tense form of the verb. let's have a few activities here. Or before we do that, let's go back a little bit and emphasize a few points here. Verbs that end in E, drop the E, add ing. Dance becomes dancing. Write becomes writing. Shine becomes shining. Like becomes liking. Hide becomes hiding. You drop the E and add ing. Words that sometimes end with a consonant. We drop the consonant, we double the consonant in some cases. Like stop becomes stopping. Add, sit, spit becomes spitting. Clap becomes clapping. Dig becomes digging. We have words that end in IE. We change this to Y and add ing. Die, for example, when somebody's life ends, okay? To die means to put an end to the life. Tie, tying. Lie, lying. Vie, vying, and so forth. Now, this form of the verb that ends in ing is what is referred to as the present participle. Now, let's look at activity 1. Give the present participle of the following verbs. Walk, sing, talk, eat, dance, write, read, play, die, tie, swim, nod, dig, run, try, reply, hope, lie, offer. We give the present participle. What is present participle? We explained it just a few minutes ago. So wherever you are watching this on the screen, quickly scribble your answers. Walk, for example, becomes walking. Okay, that's a tip. Question 2. Change the following sentences from the simple present tense to the present continuous tense. Now, when we do that, we add some words to show time. For example, when we were doing the present, the past, and the future tense in the past lesson, we were adding few words or phrases like today, every day, yesterday, last week, tomorrow, and so on and so forth, to show whether the action is in the present, or whether it is in the past, or whether it is in the future. So here again, when you're talking in the present continuous form, action that is going on, we sometimes use words or phrases to show the tense. Okay? So you change the following from the simple present tense to the present continuous tense. Okay? You add words like now, today, at the moment, at present. Okay? Now, when you add this, this shows that the action is present, and words like now shows you that the action is in progress. That means it is going on. Number 1, Usenu goes to school every day. This is present tense, every day. This is a repeated action by Usenu. He does this every day or every morning. Okay? He goes to school. 2, the sun rises from the east every day. Okay? Number 3, my mother does the housework every day. 4, John walks to school. 5, we live in that house. We live in that house. 6, my father works in his garden. 7, the book lies on the table. We have a minute or two for you to come up with your answers before we come up with the corrections. Good. Okay, you have some more here. The train stops at the station. We travel by bus to Dakar. The gardener cuts down a tree. Good. Let's look at the answers. Question 1, you were supposed to give the present participle of the following words. And the words or the verbs are walk becomes walking, ing. We add ing. Sing becomes singing. We add ing. Talk becomes talking. Eat becomes eating. Dance becomes dancing. Here again, dance ends with a silent E. We drop the E and add ing. Write, the same, ends with a silent E. We drop the E and add an ing. Becomes writing. Read, reading. Run, running. Reply, replying. Play, playing. Die, dying. Tie, tying. Swim, swimming. Again, this one belongs to those verbs that double the last letter. Swim doubles the M, becomes swimming. Nod becomes nodding. The D is doubled. Dig becomes digging. You double the G. Try, trying. Hope ends with a silent E. We drop the E and then add ing. Lie also ends with a silent E. We drop it and replace it with Y and add ing. Offer becomes offering. We just add ing. That's for the first question. The second question, we change the sentence from the present tense, simple present tense, to present participle. Okay? Present continuous tense. Usenu is going to school now. Usenu goes to school every day becomes Usenu is going to school now. The sun rises from the east becomes the sun is rising from the east at the moment. Every day we change it to at the moment. We change the other every day, we change it to now. So you see, you adding something there to show the time. My mother is doing the housework now. She does it every day, present tense. She is doing it now. John is walking to school now. John walks to school every day. In the present, John is walking to school now. We live in that house. Becomes we are living in that house at the moment. Okay? My father is working in the garden. Okay? He works there every day. He is working there today. My father is working in the garden today. The book is lying on the table at the moment. Okay? The train is stopping at the station now. We are traveling by bus to Dhaka today. The gardener is cutting down a tree now. Okay? That was the exercise. We have a homework that you need to do at home before the next lesson. Okay? Before we do that, let's go over some key points here. To refresh your memories. When we talk about an action that happens every day, or that happens in the present, we call that present tense of the verb. When a verb expresses action and the action happened in the past, we call it the past tense of the verb. When we use a verb and the action the verb expresses is not yet, it is in the future, we call it the future tense. But when we use a verb expressing an action which is going on, we call it the present continuous tense. Okay? That's why we can have the teacher is writing, I am drinking, we are learning, Tafa is reading, the calf is eating, we are dancing, they are fighting, are dancing, are fighting, is eating, is reading, are learning, I'm reading, are verbs in two parts. That is, the present form of the verb to be plus the present participle of the verb. That is, the part of the verb that adds ing. So these two put together gives you the continuous form of a verb. Okay? Okay? So the present continuous is used to express an action that is going on. Okay? Now, the rule doesn't apply to verbs like can, must, ought, and so forth. Okay? When a verb also ends with a silent E, drop the E and add ing. When the verb ends with a silent E, drop this E and add ing to form the continuous tense. Dance becomes dancing, write becomes writing, shine becomes shining, like becomes liking, hide becomes hiding. Verbs that double their last letter are mostly verbs that end with consonants, like stop, sit, spit, clap, dig. Okay? These are verbs that add, double their last letter, and then adding ing. And the third one, when a verb ends with ie, like die, tie, and so on, we drop this ie and replace it with y and add an ing. The form of the verb that has this ing is what is referred to as present participle of a verb. Okay? And then we have the homework. And the homework reads, write the present participle of the following verbs: come, die, tie, lie, skip, and spit. Come, die, lie, skip, and spit. Okay? The present participle form of these verbs, just spell them, and then when we meet again, we'll look at them together. I thank you all for your attention.